Hello and welcome to the Future of Mobility, where we look at new trends in the automotive industry. And today we're going to be talking on the future shape of cars, and we have a very special guest. We have Martin Uhlarik, the global head of design of Tata Motors, who has shaped the company's products in recent years. And right now we have the new Punch EV, which has just been launched. Martin, congratulations on a successful launch.
Thank you.
Looking straight away to the future shape of cars, EVs obviously taking center stage. Punch on an existing ICE platform, but really differentiation, the key to make it look more EV-like.
Yes.
How difficult is it as a designer, and what are the kind of key elements you look at in kind of electrifying the design, so to speak?
Yeah, so to electrify any product, or the Punch in this case, we looked at the Punch as a product, one of our most successful models. So we looked at what's making that recipe successful. I think the fact that it's a straightforward SUV, we wanted to maintain that. It looks safe, it looks reliable, it looks tough. But at the same time, when you electrify it, the first thing is you need less cooling. So we reduced all of the unnecessary cooling. There's nothing superficial, only the minimum required. At the same time, we had the charging port and the fact that we wanted to make the car look more efficient, aerodynamic, but at the same time still marry that with the SUV-ness. So it has a couple of things that are now established as our EV, DNA, which is the horizontal light guide.
Yeah. So I think the horizontal light guide is a very common trend now in electric vehicles. Is that like a signature?
It is. And you've seen with the Nexon and now with the Punch that we're really making this, part of the signature, the down-the-road graphic. Then, of course, it's just the overall architecture, the volumes, make the car look wider, make the car look more stable. So all of the lights being moved outboard, with the aero features. And then, of course, it's just making the car look as sculptural as possible. So when you're missing that sort of upper grille, it could look a little bit odd that it's missing something in the face. But of course, we've compensated that with the volumes and so forth.
Do you think the grille will finally disappear in time to come, or is it something which people relate to, that, it's people like a grille or a faux grille or a fake grille or whatever? Do you think that's still very much what consumers
want? It needs to have some sort of face, but whether it's a grille per se, that it's open, or it's a pattern, it still creates some sort of identity. It's still the visage of a product. So you will have a grille, but maybe it's not a grille as we know it. You've seen with, for instance, on the Avinia, it's a light pattern.
Right.
So it is some sort of decor. It is some sort of, feature that gives it a face.
Right. And, just before we jump in and drive off, you talked about efficiency. Yes. Aerodynamics key for an EV. Is that really a focus area for you? Because honestly, with SUVs, you don't get a very efficient shape, which affects range, but you get the presence. So is there now this trade-off between making something sleek, hunkered down, but maybe compromising the road presence a bit just to get that efficiency?
No, you still have to have the road presence, that sort of command driving position, that sort of stature. But even, an SUV is measured aerodynamically. So we take the car into the wind tunnel, and, even these small sort of improvements do increase your overall range and your competence and efficiency.
Right. Martin, I'm going to take you for a drive. Let's talk more about the interiors then.
All right, let's do it.
So, Martin, looking forward to this short drive and chatting with you. First thing I notice, being an EV, the floor goes up to accommodate the battery. So it's a higher floor.
Yes.
Is that a challenge? Because, you have to get the right kind of edge point so that you don't have that knees up position.
Yes.
Yet have ground clearance. So are these kind of some challenges which you typically face?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the packaging of the battery and the Z stack, as we call it, you've got, if you have an SUV, minimum ground clearance, battery thickness, and then you have the H point. So all of that just adds up. That dictates where you're.
And that's a big conflict, isn't it? You've got to balance it all out.
It is, but in the end, like, we raised the floor here. We had to accommodate the battery with this architecture. But I actually feel that, we're sitting a little bit higher. I think the visibility is much better.
But headroom is something you have to then worry about.
Yes, of course. You have to accommodate like a minimum in terms of headroom.
And with a sunroof, the headliner comes down even more.
Yeah. So look, it's always a bunch of stresses, one hard point going one way, another one going the other way.
Right.
But in the end, you just have to, balance it. We always make ergonomic models with all of our products.
Right.
All of these changes are validated physically.
Right. And, Martin, I want to talk about materials, the future kind of trend towards materials in terms of design. Obviously, plastics are still there, but are you going to be moving to more sustainable stuff?
Yes.
Is there a cost element to that? What do you think is the future of that in terms of, let's say, material choice now?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, everything is going through the lens of sustainability now as we think forward. Whether it's metal, plastics, the recyclability, but also the touch points. You want to communicate that it's sustainable, but some of them are just, naturally going to be recycled, but the customer doesn't really have to see that. And it's a new technology, so it always is expensive when it's a new technology. So we have to introduce it, I guess, in a sort of natural way to the customer. Most of our products are competitive price-wise.
Right.
So how do you introduce new technology and sustainability to a product that might be, already very challenging cost-wise? So I think it goes without saying that you're going to start with the top products. Those are the ones that are easier to, adapt sustainable materials, and then you see a trickle down as it becomes more mainstream.
Right.
You could also introduce it in a special edition,
Right.
and potentially, make the people who are buying a special edition almost investors, shareholders,
Right.
in a sustainability roadmap,
Right.
and those are usually early adopters anyway.
Right. And, I just want to talk on, let's say, the outer body. Steel, of course, is still everyone's favorite.
Absolutely.
And, we're doing this series with JSW, and JSW are looking at a lot more advanced steel. They are kind of doing a fight back in terms of their technology and quality to kind of take on any other material. So steel still very much, I think, the preferred material, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, first of all, it offers a lot of solutions for us, whether it's from a design point of view in terms of formability. But then you also have to look, as just we were talking about sustainability, is the resourcing, the sourcing of this material in terms of, where it's coming from, the logistics aspect, and, how you can use it. And then, of course, is it ultimately, a recyclable material?
Right.
If it is, then it ticks every box. And, there's other materials, other, metals that you can be using, but I think at the moment, I would say steel still answers most of our questions.
Right. And tell me from a design point of view in terms of the forming of the steel, in terms of the kind of curvatures you can have, the tight radius. Aluminum a challenge because it tends to tear, the draw is a bit difficult. Is that also one benefit you see out of steel?
Yes, there is, but there's also there's a lot of new techniques in terms of how we manufacturing an exterior body shell. Whether it's with laser welding and whether it's how we're stamping it, you can get a lot more fidelity and a lot more sharpness nowadays than you did years ago.
So you see, at least in the mass market, steel has still got a long, long way ahead.
I think so. Yes, definitely.
And, just looking at overall the shape of cars, Martin, what are the trends you're seeing? Because, it's sometimes it's going back to what we had. People are wanting more maybe upright vehicles for SUVs.
Yes.
Maybe larger, as we call the DLO,
That's right.
or the glass area.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to see that coming back?
Yes, I'm a big believer in form follows function. And if I'm looking at it from a user point of view, look at us sitting in this vehicle. I want the maximum amount of visibility, maximum amount of glass. I don't know, just this feeling of lightness. You don't want to feel claustrophobic in the vehicle. So I think that's definitely a trend that you'll see on the comeback. And the other thing is, yes, people want more upright vehicles, but it's important that we just don't create commodity vehicles that are, very well executed, but a little bit characterless.
Right.
I think we have to offer people something that is emotional and exciting. And, even for the people who just want A to B,
Right.
The reality is it shouldn't just become, white goods.
Yeah. Martin, looking at interior trends, big screens, flavor of the month. I mean, even over here, you've got 2 screens on what I would say is a sub 12 lakh vehicle.
Yes.
Even now, sub 10 lakh vehicle is all about screens. And what. Do you see this trend continuing? Do you think we'd move to heads-up displays, finally, voice activation?
Yes.
What is your sense? Because honestly, from a driver distraction point of view, screen isn't ideal.
No, I mean, we do see this screen arms race, if you want to call it that,
Right.
where it's just like, how many more screens can we get? But at the same time, we see another trend, which is, almost like you said, a minimization of that, more heads-up display technology, more voice-activated technology, and a more discrete, the technology becomes much more hidden tech. And I see that more in the premium segment emerging. And then the sort of mainstream segment still has this sort of, screen-centric thing. So it's almost like a two-track system. Eventually, I can see everything becoming much more integrated, that it doesn't look like an afterthought.
Right. So, Martin, looking at, again, trends in the interior, for example, we spoke about the materials. What about space? Because clearly with a pure electric architecture, you've got a lot of flexibility over there.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the things we're trying to do is just reduce volume, reduce complexity, the white noise of interior. If you look at interior design, lots of things happening visually and everything. But the main thing is all about, the proportions of the instrument panel and the floor and the visibility. So as we were saying, larger DLO, more natural light, making things all simpler. Using an EV should be about being effortless and easy,
Right.
easy to use. And that should be communicated through, even the interior design.
And do you think, let's say you'll find that the dashboard's going to be pushed more outwards because, all the air conditioning, the HVAC can go into the front. Yeah.
Yes. I started my career as an interior designer. And the first thing you would design was the IP. Then you did the console and the doors, and then you did everything else. Now I think actually the IP is the last thing you should be designing. You should be designing almost like the top, the sort of, the space you're sitting in as an atmosphere. And the IP should be secondary. It should only offer you infotainment and safety. That's it. And as a volume, you should push it down and you should push it as much forward as possible.
Right.
Give yourself more feeling of space.
And, customer preferences obviously shaping design. Sunroof, for example, is this something which you find fascinating in India, that we just love sunroofs?
I'm not surprised. I mean, I've always had a sunroof my entire career, if not a convertible. So
Yeah, but in India,
yes, in India, it's something that's just recently caught on. But I think it's just normal. I think people don't want a claustrophobic space. And, there's ways, okay, you have the glass roof.
Yeah.
And you think like, okay, I'm going to get hot in here or I'm going to bake. But in the end, there's ways, whether it's the glass technology
or just good air
the
conditioning.
climate control system and everything like that, you can control the environment and actually have then the benefit of having this very nice open, airy environment.
And, again, just talking on, let's say, the interiors. In the future, there's going to be this talk of autonomous driving or ADAS coming in more and more. Do you think this whole lounge-like experience in the car is going to kind of accelerate, where it's not just primarily driver-centric, but it's, let's say, passenger-centric?
I think what you'll see is you'll see, like you said, more ADAS systems eventually leading to full autonomy. That'll become, the vehicle will become a space, which, how do you use the space? What are you doing in it? So make it as comfortable. You can do other functions and so forth. So you'll have that as one train, where it becomes a lounge or a space. Then at the other end, you'll have vehicles that are more engaging. Even if they're an EV, they have to be more, sort of first-person, control, and I think that's just natural that you'll see this sort of polarity. Something a bit more autonomous, more of an A to B mobility device, and then you'll have something which will be far more engaging. Whether maybe the design is a bit more engaging, exterior-wise, but then also the user experience has to be more emotional.
Right. And last question, do you see cars really changing completely in shape? Do you think you'll have mono-volume, more blob-like vehicles, or customers will want the traditional 2-box and 3-box shapes, which they're just accustomed to?
Yeah, I think you'll see actually a little bit of both. I think you'll see the extreme of both. You'll have this sort of, mono volume. It becomes a pod, for lack of a better word. It's a device to get from A to B reliably and safely. And then you'll see, far more extreme niche products, whether they're a 2-box, 3-box, or whatever typology they are. and but they have to be, again, more engaging, more of a statement. Nobody wants anonymous vehicles, and nobody wants products that are just white goods.
Right. And so you think design is going to be play a much bigger role in differentiation? Because honestly, the way cars are driving, they become very homogeneous,
Yeah.
kind of one-dimensional in many ways, especially EVs. So do you think design is going to be a real key differentiator in future of mobility?
Oh, for sure. Design has this huge opportunity to create products that are emotional. And anybody who cracks that code will be successful.
Well, Martin, thanks so much for talking to us. We are back to where we started. It was a great ride, and wish you all the best. And please continue giving us some fantastic looking products.
Thank you. Thanks for the ride. And I'm really looking forward to actually showing you what we got in the pipeline as we develop these cool.
Look forward.
Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.